Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Rossi. Today we're going to create a circle collage based on the work of Wassily Kandinsky. What you will be needing today are a bunch of different art supplies. So I have almost all of my art supplies here on the table. I have my crayons, my markers, I have some watercolor paints, my glue, scissors, pencil, and eraser. And then I also have my project paper. So today we're using paper in your folder that should be labeled circles or Kandinsky circles, maybe concentric circles. But we can take that label off and get rid of it because we don't need it anymore. You should have 3 different colored pieces of construction paper and a big rectangular piece of white paper that has been folded into 3 sections. So I am going to start with my big white paper, going to press it down so it's a little bit more flat. We still want those creases in it. And I'm going to grab my construction paper. And today we're making our own version of Kandinsky's circle painting. So his painting showed all different colored circles repeating over and over again, almost like a target where the circles were going around and around in rings, getting bigger. We call those concentric circles. And we're going to make 3 different sets of concentric circles today using 3 different art supplies. So we have our construction paper to cut out and glue to make some circles. And then we're going to need 2 other kinds of art supplies to make our other rings of circles in our other boxes. I'm going to start with my construction paper and I'm going to put this set of circles in this middle box that I have on my white paper. So looking at my 3 colors of construction paper, I'm going to decide what color I want to be my biggest circle. I think I want my blue paper to be my biggest circle today, so I'm going to put the other 2 to the side. I'm going to grab my blue paper and my pencil. And with my pencil, I am going to draw the biggest circle I can on my blue paper. So I'm going to draw a huge circle that touches almost every side of my blue paper. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe if I hold it up, you can see it a little better. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want as big of a circle that we can make on our blue paper. Huge. Once you have it drawn, we're going to grab our scissors and very carefully we're going to cut out our circle. So I am turning my blue paper with my helping hand, my hand that is not holding my scissor, and my scissor is staying in the same place as I'm cutting. This is good so we don't cut our fingers by accident and we can easily follow along our line. I'm going to keep this circle and I'm going to throw out my scraps. Now my big blue circle is going to go right in the center of my white paper. And I have my other 2 colors that are going to go next. So if this is my biggest circle, I want to pick what color I want my medium-sized circle to be. I think I'm going to use purple. And on my purple paper, I'm going to look at my blue circle and I'm going to draw a circle that isn't as big, but is still pretty big, like medium size. So I'm going to draw another nice big circle. Now I know if I don't go near the edges and I leave some space in between my pencil line of my circle and the edge of my purple paper, I know that this circle is going to be a little bit smaller because when I drew with my blue circle, I made sure my line touched all the edges of my page. So this one I know is going to be a little bit smaller. Now that it's drawn and I like the way that it looks, I'm going to again cut it out with my scissor, moving and turning my purple paper with my helping hand as my scissor stays in the same place. There we go. Now I can test it and I can see if it's actually smaller than my blue circle. The way that I'm going to do that is just place it in the center. That looks pretty good. If yours is too big and it's covering up your first paper that you cut out, you can always grab your scissor and trim off a little bit around the edge to make it a little smaller. There we go, that looks pretty good. So now I have my 2 circles layered on top of each other, and my purple circle is turning my blue circle into just a blue ring of color that goes around the purple, which is pretty cool. Now I'm going to do it with my last paper. On this one, I'm going to draw the smallest circle. So I want it smaller than my blue circle and smaller than my purple circle. So right in the center of my pink paper, I'm going to draw a super small circle. Now I still want to be able to see it, so don't make it too small, but we still want it smaller than our purple circle. And again, I'm cutting out along my pencil line, and I can test it by just placing it right in the middle there. And look at that, perfect. If yours, again, is a little too big, you can always grab your scissor and trim off a little bit around the edge. That is okay. If you have extra scraps of paper and you think you can make even smaller circles to fit in there, you can do that too. Looking at my scraps that I have left, I have a pretty big purple scrap. So I can even draw a super teeny tiny circle on my purple scrap of paper and cut this out so carefully since it is small and my fingers are close to my scissor. And I can put an extra tiny circle inside. So now we've made concentric circles by layering bigger and smaller circles on top of each other. So we started with our biggest circle, then we have our medium-sized circle and our small circle, and you might even have your extra small circle right in the center. Now that I've cut all those out and I like the way that they look on my paper, I'm going to grab my glue stick and I am just going to put glue on the back of my circles and glue them down on my paper. Now when we cut out our circles, if you can still see some pencil lines on the edge, you can add glue to the side of your circle where you still see pencil lines, and then you won't have to worry about those showing up in your picture. I'm going to glue down my biggest circle first, right in the center of my middle section on my white paper. Give it a little massage so we know that it sticks. Then I'm going to my medium-sized circle, which is my purple circle. You can add glue to the side where you see pencil lines, and then flip it over and press it right in the center of your largest circle. Now yours are going to be different colors than mine probably, and as always, your project does not need to look exactly like mine. My next one is going to be my small circle. Again, putting glue on the side where I can still see those pencil lines, so that when I flip it over, I don't see them anymore. Pressing that down nice and carefully in the center. And then I have my extra small circle here for last. Again, putting glue on the side with those pencil lines and then pressing it down. And now we have our first set of concentric circles all finished. And we know that our concentric circles are going to create rings of color that go from biggest to smallest. I can get rid of my scissors and my glue stick, and I can throw out my scraps of paper because I don't need those anymore. And now it's time to pick our next material that we would like to use. I have 3 different materials here to choose from. I think I'm only going to stick to like 1 or 2 at a time. I'm going to start in this first section that I have, and with my pencil, I am just going to draw concentric circles. And the way that I'm going to do that is by drawing big and little circles. Now here, instead of going biggest to smallest, I think I'm going to go smallest to biggest. So I'm going to draw a small circle right in the center. Then I'm going to make a larger circle all the way around that one. And an even larger circle all the way around there. And I'm making sure I'm leaving enough space in between, just like we have here, so that I can add some color later on with my other art supplies. I can draw an even bigger circle. And then the biggest circle could even go off the edge of our page. So I'm just doing some curvy lines around the corners that are curving in, like there's a huge circle there that is getting cut off in our little box. I'm going to do the same thing on this side because I am just going to fill in these circles with some different colors. So again, I'm drawing circles that are getting even bigger, smallest to biggest, leaving space in between. And then once I get to the edge, you can see if you could fit one, but it might go off the edge of the paper just a little bit. I think my first section I am going to color in with my crayons, so you can decide what material you would like to use to color in your first set of concentric circles. Maybe you want to use crayons or colored pencils, maybe you want to use markers. It's totally up to you. And you can also decide what colors you would like to make your circles. Yours does not have to look like mine. So I'm coloring mine in with some crayons. I think the easiest way to color in our concentric circles so they come out nice and neat is to start by outlining our pencil line. So tracing right over the top of our pencil line so we know what to color in, and then filling it in, going back and forth nice and slowly with your crayon, marker, colored pencil, or whatever else you might be using. And you can choose whatever colors you would like to fill in your rings of your concentric circles. So again, I'm tracing right over the top and then coloring it in back and forth. I'm coloring nice and slowly to fill in all of that white space, trying my best to stay inside the lines. For me, it helps to turn the paper, so it's easier for me to color all around my shape. And I am even filling in this last little corner, so there is no white space left in my first box. And that is my first section of concentric circles done with my crayons. So now I have two all finished. I have my crayon concentric circles and I have my cut paper concentric circles in the center. Now down at this end, I think I'm either going to use some markers or watercolor paint. Now you can decide what material you'd like to use again, but we want to pick something different than what we already used. So if you already used crayons, try and pick something different to use in your last section. I think I'm going to start by just tracing over my circles with my markers, and then I'll decide if I'm going to fill these in with watercolor or if I'm just going to color them in with my markers. I think this small one I'm going to color in with my marker just because I think it's a little bit too small if I wanted to go in with my watercolor paintbrush. And if you don't have paints at home, you can always just trace and color your last section in with marker or colored pencil or whatever else you might have. Okay, so I think I will fill in my rings of color with my watercolor paints. So I'm going to put my markers to the side and grab my watercolor tray. And now when we're using watercolor paints, you need to get them nice and wet to create the paint. So I swirled my brush around in my water, and now I'm very carefully swirling it around in my paint color. I'm going to fill in this first section green. So I'm just very carefully going to go around and fill all of that in. And since my markers are washable markers, they are going to mix a little bit with my watercolor paint, and that's okay. So you might see the blue start to fade into my green paint, and that's okay. The fun thing about using paints is that the colors do mix and blend together. So I'm going to do my next section pink, and I made sure to wash my paintbrush before I went from my green paint into my pink paint. And just like I did with my crayons, I want to make sure that I'm filling in that entire space and I'm not leaving any white spots. Let's see, next is some orange. So I'm filling in this space in between my colors that I traced. And then I have yellow. So again, I washed my paintbrush before going into my yellow paint. And of course, if you run out of paint on your brush, you can wet your brush again and go back into the color. Whenever I wash my brush, I always wipe it off on the edge so I don't drip water all over the table also. And we want to be super gentle with our paintbrush and with our watercolors. We don't want to push too hard and hurt our paintbrush or hurt our watercolor paints. And now I can just pick any color for that last section there. I think I'll use my darker pink. And those are my Kandinsky concentric circles all finished. So I have my 3 different sections of concentric circles where my circles are going smaller to larger, making rings of color. I have my first section done in crayon, my second section in construction paper, and my last section with some markers and watercolor paints. Again, yours does not have to look exactly like mine. You could have chose different materials and you could have chose different colors to use. Once you're finished with your project, take a photo or video of it and upload it on my Canvas page by clicking the blue Submit Assignment button. I can't wait to see the creative and colorful concentric circles you guys have made. Try your best, have fun, and get creative. I'll see you soon. Bye!